On Sunday evening, the Indian cricket team lost the third and the final ODI against New Zealand, and with it, the series as well. The team is back in its Gambhir situation, and it's not a problem limited to tests anymore. The ODI series loss has now triggered a massive reaction from cricket fans on social media, and at the center of the storm sits the man, the very Gambhir man, Gautam Gambhir. Gautam Gambhir's tenure as head coach of the Indian team has been a turbulent one, to say the least. Under him, India has lost 3 ODI series, 2 away from home against Sri Lanka and Australia, and now with the loss against New Zealand as well, we've been defeated in ODIs on home soil for the first time in 3 years. With the triumph in the Champions Trophy in 2025, there is less pressure on Gambhir when it comes to the white ball cricket, but now with questions surfacing again after the disappointing loss against New Zealand and the 2027 ODI World Cup not too far away, will the Gambhir situation as India's head coach across formats really find a solution? Nikhil Naz, we've been debating this time and again. Is it a Gambhir situation according to you, or is it time to acknowledge that the big wigs of the game have exited, the red ball cricket, and that's why we are here? It might not be because of Gautam Gambhir.
I tell you what, Sonal, just to answer your first question, it definitely is a Gambhir situation. Let me put that into perspective. For a lot of people, it might just be one ODI match, a bilateral match that you've lost. But I'll give you 3 pointers that will actually tell you how serious a situation Indian cricket find themselves in. This, in fact, is the very first time India lost an ODI match in Indore's Holkar Stadium. They'd never lost a single match, let alone a series. This was for the very first time that New Zealand have won a bilateral series in India, a bilateral ODI series. New Zealand have been coming to India since 1988. In 2026 is the first time they won a bilateral ODI series in India. Can you imagine what a proud record India has? That, unfortunately, has come to an end yesterday after that game. And just to add on to that, in the last 1 decade, India have only lost a bilateral ODI series at home to a country called Australia. Australia, we know, are quite a force to reckon with in international cricket. So Australia has been the only team that had beaten India in the last 1 decade in a bilateral ODI series at home. The only other team now that is not called Australia that's done it, that's New Zealand. So put all those things together and you realize the gravity of the situation. Now, to what the problem is with Indian cricket, there could be multiple issues. You talk about the coaching, there could be selections that could be a problem. There could be forms of certain players that could be a problem. And without getting into the nitty-gritties, the biggest problem is, and I want to ask this to the Board of Control for Cricket in India, BCCI, what are they doing? You just flashed a lot of stats there on your screen, because the last time we were talking, Sonal, that was of India losing a test match series. Now you've lost an ODI series. You've lost 2 ODI bilateral series in the last 3 you've played. My question is, since that test match loss that we spoke about, there's not been a single meeting of the BCCI to address what the problem is. I'm saying that maybe it'll take time to reach to the bottom of the issue and find what the problem is. There's not been a single meeting. You've lost these 2 ODI series, bilateral ODI series, not as important as the test series yet. As I said, this has been unprecedented yet. There has been no word from the BCCI that they want to address an issue. I'll give you a parallel. England lost to Australia in the Ashes very recently. On the day they lost that final test match, English Cricket Board sent out a statement, this is a problem, we are going to speak to the coach, we're going to speak to the stakeholders, we're going to speak to the captain, we need to find and get to the bottom of the issue. From the BCCI, we've not heard anything. I do see a lot of BCCI officials in every game. You're talking about the game last evening, I saw all the BCCI officials sitting in the VIP box, enjoying that game of cricket. But there has been no acknowledgement as to there is an issue, which is the problem.
Do they not acknowledge the problem, or do they not have solutions?
See, I'm not asking them to come up with solutions. They are administrators at the end of the day. But their point is to get the stakeholders together and ask the question that you and I are asking. You and I have never played test cricket, right? But if there is an issue, you ask me that particular question, I will ask the experts, why is it that we lost this ODI series? Why is such player who's doing very well in domestic cricket not part of your team? Why is it that you've had such rotations and this player was rested at a certain point and this not played? Why is it that in a given game you decided to win the toss and do these? These are simple questions that the administrators need to ask and then get to the bottom of the issue. Who do you need to call? You need to call the selectors, you need to call the coach, you need to call the captain, and then after a lot of conversation, get down to what the crux of the matter is. I'll give an example. You had a situation in last year, you lost in Australia, there was a review meeting, you came out with these strict sort of rules for players. So players weren't allowed to take their families for a certain amount of days on tours. Players like Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma were asked you have to play domestic cricket. Certain players were dropped. Why? Because there seemed to be leaking news from inside the team, because you thought that was detrimental to the team. 12 months down the line, your results have even gotten worse, but you haven't addressed the issue. So when it comes to certain players that you want to target, you're quick to pounce upon them and then take these steps. When it is larger questions that need to be asked from the management or the selection, I'm afraid the BCCI is absent there.